I never thought you British could get so emotional.
She built a marriage that lasted 53 years and slept with almost no one inside it.
What a wicked woman I am.
She kept her lover's letters in a bank vault. She was branded a traitor by the country that made her.
You loathe me, don't you? Like the people outside.
And decorated as a hero by the countries that didn't.
Oh, it's all right. I don't mind being called names or pushed around or even kicked in the shin.
And the face? That face, the one art students still study, the one that launched 1,000 copycats, was not, strictly speaking, hers. It was constructed, on purpose, by the certain two who knew exactly what they were doing. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. Marlene Dietrich did not have a great face. She had a great idea about a face, and the patience of oppression to enforce it.
You're very humble, Miss Dietrich, when you speak
well,
about
yeah, that's
him
one
about
of my good qualities.
A single spotlight hung high and close, eyebrows redrawn somewhere they were never born, gold dust, actual gold, combed into her wigs every morning and out of them every night, and a refusal to be seen in any light she had not personally approved. She decided what she looked like, and then she defended that decision for 60 years, with surgical tape, with hairpins pulled tight enough to draw blood, with a glass of Dom Perignon and a closed bedroom door. And the secret was never genetics, I insist. And it's good news for us. Means we can do the same no matter what we were born with. I'll prove it to you. Well, if you'd like a bit more of that, and trust me you do, because the project is the least scandalous thing about her, then follow me. Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. I've spent a whole week buried in Marlene Dietrich, the films, the FBI file, the 800-page biography her own daughter wrote to settle a lifetime of scores, the letters, the legends, the things everyone repeats and nobody can prove. I went looking for her essence, and I'm bringing you the very best of what I found. Here's what I'll promise you. Before we're done, I'm going to take her face apart. Every spring, every screw, the lighting trick, the eyebrow geometry, the gold, the tape, the rumor about her teeth. And then I'm going to hand you the blueprint, so you can build your own version. Marlene is the best teacher we could ever ask for. One last thing before we sink in. I designed a t-shirt just for us. It's about our darling Marlene, of course. The line of light, the tilt of an eye, the idea of a woman wearing all the wrong clothes so perfectly on purpose. Links on your screen now, and in description too. If you wear it the way she would have, like you're doing everyone in the room a favor. Now, settle in and pour yourself something she would approve. Marlene's drink, late in life, was non-negotiable. A glass of Dom Perignon before dusk, every evening in a Paris apartment she almost never left. If champagne feels like a lot for a Tuesday, do the other Dietrich move, Earl Grey tea, strong, the way she took it at 6 in the morning while she read every newspaper she could get her hands on. Either one works, both of them are her. Let's start where every real story starts, not with the legend, but with the little girl underneath it. Here's a little backstory. She was born Marie Magdalene Dietrich on the 27th of December 1901 in Schöneberg, a working-class pocket of Berlin, into a family that took discipline seriously enough to make it something of a personality trait. That's a Capricorn, for those of you keeping an astrological score at home, and not a soft one at that. The reliable reconstruction of her birth chart puts not just her sun, but a whole crowd of planets in Capricorn, the sign of structure, ambition, and the long game, with a Leo moon underneath it, doing all the performing. Sea goat bones, lion blood, a woman built to engineer something and then stand in a spotlight. Just you dare find the seams. The rising sign is genuinely disputed. The databases fight about it. So I'm not going to pretend to you that I know it. But the Capricorn engine, that one runs the whole machine, and you'll see it run all the way through. Her father was a Royal Prussian police lieutenant who died when she was very small. Her mother, from a well-off Berlin clock and jewelry family, remarried a cavalry officer who then died of his First World War wounds. So Marlene grew up inside 2 losses and a great deal of order, the daughter and stepdaughter of men whose profession was control. Around the age of 11, she did something rather telling. She took Marie and Magdalene and fused them into one word, Marlene. She named herself perfectly, before anyone else got the chance. I have to say I was really astonished when I found out. She then trained seriously as a concert violinist, and loved Bach the way some people love a god. Then her wrist gave out, or depending on which version you believe, conveniently gave out right around the time Weimar Berlin's nightlife got its hooks into her. And even the cautious sources admit she may have helped that injury along with a little self-mythology. You see, it's the first time we catch her editing her own story, and I assure you it will not be the last. By 1922, she was sawing away in a pit orchestra under silent films and got fired after 4 weeks. She auditioned for the great theater impresario Max Reinhardt's school, and guess what? She didn't get in. She worked as a chorus girl, a body in a line, the kind of role no one writes down, a Tealshire girl, a face in a Rudolf Nelson review, a dependable nobody at the far end of the kick line. And the Berlin she was failing in was not a simple place to fail. This was Weimar at full tilt. Cabarets where nothing was forbidden, a city that had decided, between 2 catastrophes, to be just as awake and as decadent as it could possibly stand. She watched all of it and absorbed all of it and converted it, slowly, into nerve. This is the part the Marlene Dietrich legend skips, so I won't. For many long years, Marlene Dietrich was not at all special. She was just relentless, and she was paying very close attention. Remember that, because the woman who later seemed to arrive fully formed actually spent the better part of a decade being ignored and rejected. In 1923, she married Rudolf Sieber, an assistant casting director. Their daughter, Maria, arrived next year, and then something happened that tells you everything about how she would run the rest of her life. The marriage essentially stopped being a marriage in the bedroom, but instead of ending, it simply restructured. They stayed married, legally, publicly, loyally, for 53 years, until his death. They just stopped being faithful to it. Both of them, with a frankness that would still make a modern poly-relationship podcaster clutch their pearls. Hold on to that, because we are coming back to it soon enough. But first, the transformation. The actual blueprint moment, the night the face got invented. In 1930, a director named Josef von Sternberg came back to Germany and cast a not-famous Dietrich as Lola Lola, the heartless cabaret singer in The Blue Angel. Just watch her in that film, and then watch her a couple of films later. It's not the same face, and that is not a figure of speech. Sternberg put her on a strict regime, took weight off her, and, this is the part that matters, engineered the way light hit her. He hung a single hard key light, high and close above her face, angled down. That one decision casts a small butterfly-shaped shadow under the nose and scoops the cheeks into hollows that her rounder, real-life face simply did not have. He directed her down to the millimeter, too. There are surviving instructions of his that sound less like coaching and more like a sculptor talking to his clay. Turn your shoulders away, drop your voice an octave, and stop lisping. Count to 6, and look at that lamp as if you couldn't live without it. Don't move. She did not resent this. She learned that lighting techniques so well that for the rest of her career she carried a small mirror to check her own key light, corrected her own cinematographers, and eventually even lit herself. The technique is so completely hers that cinematographers still call it, to this day, Dietrich Lighting. Just think about that. She knew exactly what was happening. In her autobiography she wrote, "In my case the face was created. The secret face with the hollow cheeks was achieved as a result of placing the main spotlight close to my face and high above it." She is not confessing, but actually bragging. She titled the chapter about Sternberg, "You Svengali, I Trilby," and inscribed a photograph to him with the words, "I am nothing without you." He, for the record, refused the puppet master story entirely. "I did not endow her with a personality that was not her own. I gave her nothing that she did not already have," he said. The truth is somewhere in the lamplight between them. They made 7 films together, in 5 years. Morocco, her American debut, her only Oscar nomination, and the scene where she walks on stage in a man's white tie and tails, takes a flower from a woman in the audience, kisses that woman on the mouth, and tosses the flower to Gary Cooper. 1930, a major American studio, the first same-sex female kiss in American sound cinema, and she does it with the bored confidence of someone casually lighting a cigarette. If you had to build a public self from scratch, your own blueprint, would you rather be loved for the face you were born with or for the one you decided on? And while you're thinking, if any of this is landing, the like button genuinely changes whether this channel can keep making videos like this one, and it costs you nothing, so I would be really, really grateful for any attention like that. Now let's talk about the persona, and what a serious critic does with it. Our cultural critic Camille Paglia has been, on the record, almost evangelical about Marlene Dietrich. She has repeatedly held her up as the gold standard of how to build and age a glamorous persona, calling her the great precursor and the great role model. The woman Madonna was channeling until she forgot how. The deeper reading is where it gets delicious. And here I'm building on Camille Paglia's framework rather than putting sentences in her mouth. In Camille Paglia's grand scheme, there are two forces in art and sex. One is the messy, formless, devouring force of raw nature. The other is the hard, carved, glittering, man-made object that refuses nature. The mask, the statue, the Mona Lisa's unbearable stare. Dietrich is the second one in flesh. The personalized spotlight her director created for her is not just lighting in this reading. It is the cold sculpting eye of art itself, hollowing a soft human face into a permanent object that time cannot touch. The tuxedo, the top hat, the kiss, that's the same instinct, the glamorous androgyne who is somehow more womanly in a man's suit than she'd ever be in a gown. And the face taping at 90, the locked door, the refusal to be photographed old. That's not vanity in this frame. That's the artist guarding the artwork against decay. Glamour, for Dietrich, was not decoration. It was a discipline practiced against entropy. Which brings us to the scandals. Because why not? We, the audience here, are grown, and softening this would betray the whole point. The marriage was open in a way that wasn't just a phase. Her husband lived for decades with a mistress, presented to the public as the family nanny. By their daughter's account, that woman was made to have around 15 abortions to protect the public face of Marlene's marriage, and was eventually institutionalized. No wonder, poor woman. It's tough to ponder on the true cost of all that engineering. You could say such a blueprint had a bloody, almost devilish body count. Marlene, meanwhile, ran what Hollywood's queer underground called the sewing circle, a network of bisexual women in an industry that would have ordinarily destroyed any of them for it. Her well-documented lovers are the most sought-after guest list of the 20th century. Among the men, Sternberg, Gary Cooper, John Wayne, Frank Sinatra, the novelist Erich Maria Remarque, Yul Brynner, in a decade-long affair that started when she was in her 50s, the actor James Stewart during the filming of Destry Rides Again, after which she had a secret abortion she only confided years later, and Joseph Kennedy, the president's father, in a long affair while the Kennedy children, plural, vacationed alongside her own daughter. Among the women, the writer Mercedes de Acosta, Edith Piaf, a Paris nightclub figure known as Fred, the Standard Oil heiress Jo Carstairs, Tallulah Bankhead. The great love of her life, by most accounts, was the French actor
Jean Gabin.
And it ended for the most ordinary reason in the world. He wanted her in a way she would not be wanted, and she would not move her life to fit his. There is also a persistent rumor about John F. Kennedy himself, including an anecdote, sourced entirely to her daughter, in which Marlene asked Maria's husband to literally smell her underwear to confirm the president's scent. I want to be honest with you the way I'd want a friend to be honest with me. That one is family gossip. Vivid and unprovable, and I'm telling you who it comes from so you can weigh it yourself. And here is the strangest thing in the entire file, the thing that turns the seductress legend inside out. By the testimony of the people closest to her, including her own daughter, Marlene Dietrich does not appear to have particularly enjoyed the actual sex. The lovers were more like victories. The letters went into a vault like trophies. By the way, from this point on, you'll be seeing me recreating my modern version of Marlene's makeup and hairstyle. Hope you'll find it useful or inspiring. When the filmmaker Maximilian Schell on tape gently suggested to her that women also take pleasure in sex, the most desired woman of her century answered, flatly, "I don't know." So, the greatest erotic icon of the 20th century built the most famous sexual persona in film history, and may have experienced the actual thing with no more gusto than she would with bookkeeping. Let's not worry about such tragedy here. That is the blueprint's darkest and most honest page. The persona was the point, the body was the instrument. There is always a price to pay, and always a reason why it seemed too easy for someone. Well, then there is the daughter's book. In 1992, the year her mother died, Maria Riva published an 800-page biography, written with Marlene's own blessing and full access, that painted her as a heartless, domineering narcissist, who called her only child the child, and deliberately kept her uneducated, so she'd never be anything but her mother's permanent witness. The hardest part of it is Riva's account that she was repeatedly raped by her governess from the age of 13, and that her mother's failure to protect her was, in Riva's own words, the thing she could never forgive. To that I could never give an excuse. But we have to keep going. Now the war. When the Nazis came to power, they wanted her badly. She was the most famous German in the world. They reportedly offered her staggering money to come home and be the face of the Reich cinema, but she said no. She became an American citizen in 1939, and therefore her films were banned in Germany. The order went out to destroy the prince of the Blue Angel itself. Then she did the thing that, to me, is the most genuinely heroic act of the whole life. She went to the front. More than 500 shows for Allied troops. North Africa, Italy, France, Belgium, into Germany, sleeping in tents, catching pneumonia, getting frostbite, performing close enough to the fighting to hear it. She did a musical saw bit and a mind-reading routine. Her opening act was a young comedian named Danny Thomas. She was, by every account, completely without vanity about the conditions and completely unbreakable about doing it. She was recruited by American intelligence to record German-language songs for black propaganda broadcasts, and reportedly was the only performer told outright what they'd really be used for. She did it anyway. She recorded Lily Marlene, the song both sides of that war loved, and aimed it back across the lines like a soft weapon. One Allied assessment reportedly judged the broadcasts as damaging to German morale as an air raid. Asked why she risked her life like that, she gave a 2-word answer in German, aus Anstand, meaning out of decency. 2 American generals independently put her up for the Medal of Freedom. She received it in 1947 and called it the proudest thing she ever did, and her own country never forgave her. To a wave of post-war German nationalists, she wasn't a hero, she was a traitor. Vaterlandsverräterin, the woman who'd worn the enemy's uniform. When she finally returned to West Germany in 1960 to perform, she got packed houses and standing ovations, and also protest signs reading "Marlene, go home," bomb threats, and by some accounts was spat at in the street. Her response, when a reporter put the word traitor to her, is one of the great sentences of the 20th century. If that means I'm a traitor, then let them call me a traitor. And she did not go back. Berlin spent the next 40 years apologizing. A square named after her, a formal apology, honorary citizenship, all of it arriving after she was well past caring. Well, alright, let's have a quick breath here. If this channel is your kind of thing, subscribing is how you tell the algorithm to let me keep doing exactly this. It's a brand new channel, you know, so it would be a deal breaker, and I really hope to hear from you in the comments. And now, here is the beauty blueprint, the part you came for. The eyebrows first, because they do more than anything else, and cost the least. She plucked them super thin, and then redrew them. And this is the trick, not where they grew, but higher and farther out than the natural arch. The inner edge starts a touch wider than where your brow really begins. The peak sits higher than the start. The tail pulls slightly down and longer than your eye's outer corner. What this does is open the eye and lift the whole face. But you do not need her exact brow. You need the principle. A redrawn line that lifts is often worth more than a real line that just ordinarily sits there. Then, the eyes. A pale, almost luminous point of highlight in the inner corner, thrown deliberately into the light. Smoky shadow pushed back into the socket so the lid looks carved rather than colored. And the signature move, the one her makeup people swore by. Take a strip of false lashes, cut it in half, and apply only the outer corner piece. It pulls the eye sideways and up. Feline, sleepy, expensive looking, without the obvious doll lash heaviness. A line of white or nude pencil on the lower waterline to open everything up. That's it. That's the eye. The cheekbones, and now we handle the famous rumor properly, because you deserve the truth. The hollows are built from 3 things. 1, that highlight, doing most of the heavy lifting, as we know. 2, a quiet stripe of contour shading just under the cheekbone, blended until it really looks like a real shadow. 3, and listen closely, Hollywood has gossiped for nearly a century that she had her upper molars removed to deepen those hollows. You will find that claim repeated in beauty columns and dental history articles, and even in her own daughter's book. Obviously, I'm not going to call it a beauty tip, because it probably isn't even true and is plain unnecessary. But it is a curious fact. Well, the lip in the early years was a small, precise bow drawn just inside the natural line. Later, fuller. And the gold. My favorite detail in the entire file. She had Max Factor sprinkle real compressed gold dust into her wigs, so she'd throw sparkle on camera. One account claims an employee combed over $24 worth of gold out of a single wig at the end of a shooting day, then redusted it the next morning. The gold was real. On stage in 70s, she wore the nude dress, a beaded silk soufflé sheath by the designer Jean-Louis, built to suggest she was wearing nothing at all. Every sequin placed under her own supervision. Then there's the part nobody likes to talk about, how she held all of this together as she aged. Because I think our blueprint should include the maintenance too. Under the hair and the wigs there was the Croydon facelift. Tiny strands of her own hair, twisted around pins and pulled tight back into the scalp, surgical tape running the jaw up into the hairline, sometimes a fine gold chain behind the ears doing the lifting. But there was no confirmed surgery, just relentless, almost monastic, daily illusion. That look was never a gift she was given. It was a thing she did, on purpose, every single day, for 60 years, until doing it was the only thing left, which is where she ends, and where I want to leave you. For the last 12 years of her life, she lived almost entirely in bed, in an apartment at 12 Avenue Montaigne in Paris. She would not be photographed. She communicated by telephone in 3 languages, often until dawn. Newspapers at 6, tea, fish for lunch, a glass of Dom Perignon before dark, the news at night, and the receiver, always the receiver. When Maximilian Schell made a documentary about her, she negotiated $250,000 and then refused to appear on camera in it. The young singer Uti Lemper, hailed in Paris as the new Marlene, once picked up the phone to find the old one on the line for an hour, talking about Rilke, about pain, about Germany. A voice with no contemporary face attached. The icon deliberately outliving the body, exactly as designed. So here's what Marlene Dietrich would tell you if, let's say, you got her on the phone late at night. She dressed for the image, not for herself, not for men, not for fashion. She said glamour was simply assurance, the certainty that whatever the room, you are equal to it. She did not believe your face was your fate. She believed it was your first draft. The most desired woman of her century looked in the mirror, decided she could do better, and then spent 6 decades proving it with a lamp, makeup, and some tape. You do not have to copy her face. I rather recommend the nerve to decide what you look like, and then have the discipline to bring it into the world. Thank you for spending this one with me. Go pour the other half of that champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. I've queued up the next chapter for you here. I'll see you soon. Love, Kira. Now go create your own blueprint.